Hello, and welcome again to my How to Paint Tiny Things podcast. It's my podcast all about me and my things of painting tiny things. Today we're going to paint something tiny, and on the tiny thing we're going to write tiny words in tiny paint, and no one will be able to read it unless they have a tiny magnifying glass to look at the tiny things that we're going to paint today.
AJ, you got a caller on line one.
Hello, caller.
Hi, tell me how to paint miniatures.
No.
But that's a tiny thing.
Now, you're going to watch me paint tiny things and listen to it on this podcast. Thank you very much, caller. Goodbye. All right, back to painting my tiny things. Hooray. I'm very excited about today's painting.
All right, I got to break this up because I really thought you were going to get into detail on painting miniatures.
No.
But you could have a separate podcast on painting miniatures.
I probably could.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy it. I'm by no means great at it. I've gotten proficient.
Right.
I'm good at it. I can paint them.
And how many people you think would listen to that podcast? How many people paint miniatures, you think?
Oh, I mean, how many people do it? Millions. How many people would care to listen to a podcast of painting them? Probably not very many.
If they're a first-time painter.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's a lot more helpful to watch somebody do it, though.
We just need multiple podcasts for all our different passions.
That's
but
right.
This one is on safety. So welcome, everybody. This is really a podcast on how not to die at work, all things
pretty
safety.
good stuff.
And it's called the Evil Safety Dudes, where we discuss all things OSHA and how not to die at work.
Well, not just OSHA.
All things.
We do other stuff.
Yeah, a little DOT, a little EPA, a little DNR.
EPA?
What other acronyms we got? And security, Homeland Security. This one today is on more of that security side. We're going to do one on active killer survival tactics. Right. We're going to start a multiple-part series, and this is just going to be the general one. But before we get into that, I want to introduce my co-host, Mr. AJ Hanscom, and he is an OSHA authorized outreach instructor for the general industry and construction, which the general industry is where the most significant amount of active killers actually take place.
In the general industry, huh?
Well, yeah, we always think it's not the construction sites.
I suppose.
And those guys have hammers. Dude, you better be
business.
Tough to go and try to shoot construction workers.
You just take care of it.
They will smoke you with a front end loader.
Well, I would like to introduce everyone to my co-host, Mr. Aaron Iacino, and especially since of the subject we're doing today, I would like to introduce him as an NRA range officer.
What's that got to do with active killers?
Well, because you're very familiar with a lot of the culture surrounding, firearms, firearm handling, firearm training, use, misuse. I know it's part of what you're embroiled in, and you've come from a history of it. We'll get to that, as we get into it. But I just thought it'd be kind of cool for everybody to know you're actually you're a licensed range or certified range officer.
Yeah, which is a cool title, and I'm a chief range safety officer.
Chief range, you can
I make range safety.
You can
officers.
make range safety officers.
Yeah, and that does tie into active killers because when I do train range safety officers, people that supervise the safety of shooting at ranges,
sure,
I do train them now how to identify someone who's practicing for a shooting spree.
Ooh, that way, if somebody's coming to the range, they're bringing specific gear. Maybe using specific type of firearms or handling everything in a specific way, and they can identify that at the range.
It's more what they're doing with the gear.
Okay. All right.
So, you would pick it out right away because you shoot.
Yeah.
If you saw somebody put 50 humanoid targets on the ground and then walk up and shoot them, walk around and shoot them,
that
targets
would look weird. That would look
that's
really
totally weird.
That's super weird.
But that's actually a skill of an active killer.
You think that's something they would go practice?
They do.
They just go out and lay
They
out
do
targets
practice. These things do not happen in a vacuum.
Oh, man.
They actually train for these.
That's crazy.
Sometimes they plot these for years.
Well, before we get too torn into it, mind if I ask you, how you been since the last time we managed to catch up? Anything new going on?
I've been doing good.
How's the homestead?
I started my new diet and a new lifting regimen in January, so I'm 6 months into that, and I'm actually seeing more, putting on more muscle than I ever had in my whole life.
Oh, heck yeah!
I got rid of fake foods. I talked about that before. Started eating real foods and hitting the weights, and it's really cool to see stuff work. I've lifted weights a lot, and didn't see a bunch of change, but just switching up the diet, it was really cool to see it actually start working.
Well,
and
yeah,
putting
your
on
body
muscle.
needs the right stuff to build what you want it to build.
Well, I assumed it was the right stuff, buying all this. This is the most pure protein powder on the market, and this is the best protein bar in the world.
Right.
It's made with these type of proteins, far superior than those other crappy proteins. And I'm like, yeah,
give me the good expensive stuff.
and then nothing.
And zero things.
Then I start eating real food,
Yeah.
like meat.
Ooh.
Whoa, and then all of a sudden muscles pop up.
All of a sudden. Where did you come from?
Accompanied with 5 days a week.
Right,
lifting.
right.
But, it was just a stupid revelation for me.
Right. All of a sudden you're giving your body enough. And, sometimes that's a big like aha moment to people who are like, man, I really want to lose weight and bulk up. So they'll trim their diet way down to what they think is essential and then hit the gym. And then all they do is continue to like lean out, or they don't do anything. Like
Right.
their body doesn't even change shape. Yeah, you got to have the nutrients to be able to get up there. It's crazy.
And there's different qualities of nutrients.
Eating more of the right stuff and hitting the gym can actually make you lose weight. So
Yeah. How about you? What's new with you?
I was actually also gym related. I had a little bit of a revelation over the last week where I do a lot of bench press, and I had an aha moment. Somebody was just going over how to properly leg drive through bench press, and it just something in me just
leg drive through bench press.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to show me that one because visually I can't understand how you use your legs when you bench press.
Well, and it's really important to be able to stabilize like your whole core and the center of your body while you're benching, so that
you mean you can't flop your feet around like I do when you bench?
Yeah, right.
Your feet can't like start kicking and wiggling.
Right, you're not supposed to do that.
Oh, okay.
So,
I should stop that.
But I was like in my head, I knew the idea, I knew the principles of it, but I never had a good trainer. I've just basically been doing it all in my basement by myself forever. And for whatever reason, the way this guy said what he said, it lined up.
Just clicked for you.
Everything just fell into place, and I was like, I got it. So I've been trying it here this last week, and I've noticed a huge difference in my bench.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
All right, so active killer survival tactics is very important for us to do right now because currently this is 2021. This is June, and the active killers have started back up. The mass shooters,
I've seen a few more in the news already.
Yeah, as soon as COVID died down, they started up. There was a long pause during COVID where you weren't seeing the mass shootings, the mass killings. And then boom, COVID chilled out. Boom, once a week now. Pop, 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 pop. Every day on the news almost. I'm checking out the headlines. Mass shooting, mass shooting, mass shooting. They are back.
Now, do you think they were afraid of COVID?
I don't know.
They didn't want to catch COVID while they're out there shooting
there's
people.
There's speculation that some were like super, believing everything they heard and were scared.
And they were like, no, I'm not going out there.
Other people speculate that it's because there wasn't crowds.
I mean, okay.
Because even at a factory, which wasn't shut down, like an essential factory, there were still like social distancing people, and they were rotating shifts. Half people would work nights. Now, like they were doing all these things because of COVID, and the result of a lot of those efforts to prevent the spread of COVID also minimize gatherings, which makes an active killer less likely to happen because they want a mass body count.
Man, that's crazy. I've never even thought about or like really considered that. There weren't public crowds for people to shoot at or target or make themselves famous, because that's a lot of them are seeking that attention.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it's vengeance orientated, well, you're not going to be able to really get a lot of people if everybody's social distance or dispersed. Well,
if the guy that fired you now works from home,
right?
There goes your mass shooting plan.
Yeah, you either got to figure out where he lives, or wait for COVID to be over. Man, that's crazy.
Other people speculated that the COVID was such kind of a shocking worldwide incident that it caused them to more focus on their own survival, let alone choosing that moment to enact their plan.
I mean, that kind of brings up a good vein, especially when we're talking about how not to die at work, the why. So let's cover a few of the whys. We talked about, famous, we talked about vengeance. What are some of the most important whys you think we can
the most common cause of an active killer at work is grievance.
So they're upset with what, boss, coworkers?
So do you remember the last safety convention we put on?
Yes.
I brought out my friend Greg Vecchi.
Yep.
He teaches at a university. Before that, he spent 20 plus years at the FBI.
Yeah.
Like he's a hardcore dude. He's a firearms instructor. Like he's a cool dude. And he spoke on active killer,
Mm-hmm.
and he was bringing up all the FBI stats because they got to investigate them all. And just the common theme for all of the ones that they were investigating was vengeance, but more so grievance, where I feel wronged by something that happened at work, and they're obviously not very together mentally. They're not
Sure.
a very enlightened person with great coping skills. There's something inside them that's not functioning properly, and so they feel the best way to handle that grievance is through gun violence or machete violence or massive truck killing violence or whatever.
Oh man.
So that's part of the prevention, which, we're going to do a whole show on prevention because, we're going to go over the basic stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
Prevention is going to take a whole show. But,
Sure.
But part of that, what we'll deal with a lot of that episode is dealing with grievances. Like HR is going to be on it, man.
Right.
And we got to train people to report grievances. If someone has a grievance and they're not reporting it and the coworker finds out, the coworker needs to report their other coworker's grievance. Like, we got to squash grievances.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Grievances grow into active killers. Not all of them,
No,
obviously, but a lot of them do.
I mean, if you think about the probably millions or tens of millions of grievances that happen every day,
Yeah.
when you're looking at percentage-wise, a teeny amount of them might ever be an active killer, but if all of us stepped our game up, we could cut those numbers way down.
For sure, if we squash grievances. And, we talk about OSHA most on this show.
Right.
And OSHA has got involved in active killer cases.
So what's one of the OSHA ways OSHA gets involved? I can't say gets active in active killer. I think saying active twice sounds a little.
Well,
how do they get
it's
involved?
workplace violence, and they've been into workplace violence forever.
So what's a OSHA citable, or maybe just a regulation?
It's general duty clause.
Oh, okay.
So there's a real case. It's public record. You could
Mhm.
look it up. It was in Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah, and this guy was.
My brain's already. It was like New York or Chicago.
No, it
or
was
Detroit,
Hawaii,
but
and
Hawaii. All right.
This company got cited because of an active killer.
Oh wow.
Yeah, OSHA cited the company.
What? Well, you
So-
got to walk me through it.
So what happened was the guy had a grievance. He had an issue.
Do we know what it was?
No, it's been a while since.
It wasn't like busted machine.
It's
or,
probably there
complaining
when,
to his
if we were to
management,
look it up. Maybe when I get on one of my long monologues, you could Google it or something. But,
I'll have time.
but he had a grievance,
Okay.
and he voiced how he was going to come shoot everybody.
What?
That
crosses a huge barrier.
It's actually more common than you think, but most people brush it off.
Well, no, and that's one of the ones that should be taken seriously because, like, that person is now like publicly willing to announce that they're going to kill people. Like, that's a huge deal.
But there's this thing called normalcy bias and denial, where you just don't believe someone's actually going to do it.
Right.
But it was documented. The company knew this person had made these threats. I come from an era where we had good insults.
Like your mama.
Obviously the mama jokes, but like, I'm going to cut off your head and crap down your neck, punk.
Well, I mean,
have you ever heard that one?
Classic military.
Yeah, and people get used to that. There's some rough and tough crowds in some of these places, and that's just how they talk. So it's real easy for someone just to be like, whatever, If like, touch my tool again, punk, I'm going to come in here and blast you up and everybody else,
Yeah.
Like today we would go, whoa, active killer,
Right.
But, in times past, oh, that's just Aaron. That's just how Aaron talks.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Because there's always that guy.
Yep.
Who's that crazy violent when he talks.
Okay. I see what you're saying. So this guy
break your neck.
He'd said some outlandish things about
Yeah.
shooting the place
I'm gonna
up.
shoot you. I'm
and
gonna shoot this
everybody's
place
like, whatever.
up.
He's always mad.
It's been documented. It didn't get dealt with though.
Okay.
There's no counseling. There was no confrontation, carefrontation, no investigation, no fact finding like HR is supposed to do.
So then he comes to work one day.
So then he does, and I can't remember the time frame later, but it was later. It wasn't like immediately. And he did shoot the place up, and he killed a bunch of people.
Like, do we know how or like what? Did he walk through with a shotgun, or do you have a big rifle?
No, it's been a lot. This has
handgun?
been several years. So we could look up, maybe cover this case on some of the other shows, because we're gonna do a series on this. But so not only did they have the loss of employees, I'm talking about the company, not only did they have maybe civil suits from family members, not only did they have to deal with the morale loss, the production loss, just sometimes they tear down facilities, like when stuff like that happens. Like they had tremendous financial and morale and issues. But then on top of that, you get an OSHA fine.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, and that's what happened.
Like on top of everything, you had to deal
on
with
top
this
of everything you got to deal with.
Incident.
Yeah, so I mean, the lesson learned here is when someone comes to upper management and says, "Hey, Aaron just said he's going to shoot this place up," upper management needs to take that seriously.
I would agree with that.
And I want to do a whole show on policy because corporations and companies need rules on this. You need a written policy. It's that time. It's 2021
for sure.
If you're a decent sized company, you don't have an active killer policy. You need one.
Right,
you're behind the times.
Definitely.
And part of that deals with what do you do when you find out of these threats made or these things said. You need to snap into action. You need to do fact finding, set up counseling. You need to talk to that person. You need to squash that grievance because it actually could turn into one, and it has.
So is there any other good considerations you would like to talk about for reasons people would become an active killer? Because, I mean, we already know grievance. We know, anger, violence. We know that need to be famous or maybe that want to be heard. Is there anything else, that like we could look for actively?
Yeah, and sometimes they check a lot of those boxes. But domestic violence is a big cause of mass shooters.
So somebody who, in their private or personal life, like they're mean or actually physically violent with like pets or family members.
No, we're talking straight up husband-wife stuff. Domestic.
Oh, like specific.
Yeah, so let's say my ex-wife, cheated, my wife cheated on me, my ex-wife now, and I want to kill her.
Okay.
Well, I know where she's at from 8 to 5, Monday through, Friday. I know where she's at.
So that employee, like,
so then the husband goes in and shoots his wife.
Right.
But he doesn't just shoot her. He shoots a few people to her and then a few people away from her.
Oh, you're talking about like she's at work.
Yeah, because know where she's at from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. It's like an easy, you know where she's at.
Right.
You don't got to stalk her and lie and wait for her. You know where she's at. You know where she works.
My brain went the total other way. Like, we're identifying this guy before he's an active killer. And so, like, we find out, oh, whatever, did you hear about that guy?
Well, that's part of prevention.
Like, he beats his wife. Like,
no, that's part of prevention. When we get into the prevention episode, it should be communicated to employees like a new hire and then maybe annually, like, look, if you ever have anything really serious domestic happening, you need to come let us know so we can go to an orange level alert or a higher alert.
And we're going to come up with a color-coded system like terrorism.
Well, they do, or just high, medium, low. Because if I came into you, HR, and I said, hey, man, my wife's going to shoot me. Like she said so. And I believe her.
Right,
I cheated on her, and she said, if you ever cheat on me, I'm going to kill you. And I cheated on her, and she said, remember what I said? I'm going to do it.
I mean, at that point, you just kind of need to tell the authorities.
Well, yeah, you do too, but, you got to go to work, right?
You still got to go to work, but your work should tell the authorities.
So you need to tell the work that, because in the work, they keep that person's identity concealed, the worker, but then they're communicating, hey guys, we got a threat to one of our employees, everybody be on the lookout, don't prop any doors when you go out to smoke, use your fobs,
right.
And
maybe they don't come in guns
activity
blazing.
If you see this color car driving around, you need to let us know. Right. We're at a high alert, people.
But yeah, it'd be super easy for anybody to just, and depending on where you work, but just to walk up to a front desk person, oh yeah, I have a 2:00 here to see so-and-so. And they'd be like, oh, okay, well, we'll let you know where they're there, or we'll take you up to see them, and then boom, you've got a face-to-face meeting with them right there.
It's really easy to get on the floor of any manufacturing plant, too.
It's not hard.
You and I do safety inspections, and
unannounced.
I've been able just to walk into many places.
So many places.
So, but that's part of prevention. But
right.
So, yeah, domestic violence that spills over to the workplace. Now, that's not usually the 20, 25, 30 body counts, but it's still like the 5, 6, and 7s.
Well, yeah. I mean, and then usually themselves.
And along with that is more of that targeted attack, like I'm going after the HR person who fired me. I'm going after that boss who fired me. Yeah. We had one down around Omaha where they were going after the principal. So there's targeted attacks too. So there's a lot of different reasons, and sometimes it's straight up delusional.
Like they've decided that someone has wronged them, even though
no, like if you go back to the Gabby Giffords case, Congressman woman, in Arizona. That guy like thought she was the devil.
Oh, holy smokes! That's a different level of delusion.
Well, it's an actual delusion, like,
right?
It's a thought that's not based upon reality,
right?
So this person thinks, because mental health is like a huge part of this.
Well, for sure.
Not all of the active killers have been in the mental health system, but it didn't mean they all didn't have mental health issues.
Right.
But many, many, many of them were in the mental health system, on psych meds, in and out of treatment, have psych diagnosis. The Virginia Tech shooter, there were several of them. It's a big component. So when someone thinks that someone's the devil because they're, I'm trying to be politically correct. Let me just be politically correct because this is a podcast. But somebody's mentally ill and they have that level of a delusion.
Yeah.
In their mind, they're actually doing the world, not just society or America, good. They're doing the whole world good. If they can kill the devil,
right? Yeah,
then they're a hero. Yeah. And so there's always that whole mental health,
the entire situation
causation,
manipulated,
root cause analysis, and then you mentioned fame and revenge. If you go back to the trench coat mafia, it's going back to how I got my start in this at Columbine.
Yeah, that's actually where you first got into this.
Yeah, I was a nursing student at the time, so over 21 years ago, and our group, we took care of some of the kids that got shot.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for, over 20 years, and I spent over 10 years in locked adolescent psych wards, really mastering the profile and helping curb future active killers. Like, I've been deep entrenched in this. Columbine, affected me.
Oh yeah, I mean it was one of the things that had a huge impact.
But those kids were bullied,
right?
So there was a big revenge component to it.
Yeah, they were going to show people.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of different rationales why it happens, and if you think bullying's not in a workplace, you haven't worked.
Right? Yeah, every workplace, man.
Now there's some pretty professional, like our office, no one's bullying each other, but I mean, if you go into like some of like the contractors, from the time you show up on site till the time you leave, it's nonstop, just in on each other.
Well, I mean,
it's just the culture.
Yeah, everywhere you go. I mean, I grew up, I did fast food,
right?
And there's just management, there's manipulation. Anytime anybody gets a little bit of power over somebody else, I've seen it just go awry.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Middle management.
It can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
All the way down to something, super mundane, or your office work, or something hardcore like a construction site, or working in a jail. I mean, it could be anywhere. So no, I've totally could get that one.
Let's do one of our favorite segments. Jun.
I'm digging the new one.
Yeah. All right, AJ.
All right.
Why do professionals in the trade call it active killer instead of active shooter?
Well, this is an opinion answer, so this is
go for it.
This is an opinion answer.
I'll tell you if you're right or wrong. It's cool.
It's just the gravity of the situation. An active shooter implies someone who's going around shooting. An active killer is a much more specific response to the level of threat that's at hand. This person is there to kill people. They're not there to shoot a gun. They're there to kill people, and I feel like that's the way it should be addressed.
That's a good thought, but it's not right.
Oh, all right.
It's called active killer because they don't always use a gun.
Oh.
Over 25% of active killers never use firearms.
Man, I was reading there have been this string of, and they've tried to keep them quiet here these last 2 years, but there was all of these train murders in China.
Weird.
People would get on a train, and other people couldn't escape, and they would go through these trains just killing people with knives.
Oh, yeah. It's big. In all these other countries where they don't have like a Second Amendment like we have,
right?
And they do not allow their citizens to own guns.
Mm-hmm.
They don't stop killings. There's been several in China, and for those of you out there that are very happy in your life and you need a bit more depression, I have the solution for you.
Oh no!
Go to your good depression friend, Dr. Google, and Google in Chinese kindergarten knife attacks.
Oh no!
And you're not going to see.
Terrible.
You're not going to see one. You're going to see multiple. Where a guy goes into like a Chinese kindergarten.
Oh, that's awful.
And he just kills a bunch of kids and teachers.
That's one of the darkest things I've ever heard.
It's a big female staff in that world.
Right.
And he kills them, and he kills kids. And I'm not talking about 1, 2. We're talking about 10s and 20s.
That's just insane.
And this is multiple incidents. So that's why it's called active killer, because you don't need a gun.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. You know, I suppose active shooter only implies that they have a firearm.
Yeah, for sure. And that same style attack you've discussed, we've had in America on subways.
We have had those in a lot of our enclosed spaces. We've had them in subways. We've had them in elevators.
Right.
Yeah, there's been some weird, interesting places where people have decided that they want to kill people. And unfortunately, like most of the time, that's at work.
And knives, they work really good. They don't need to be reloaded.
No.
They don't run out of bullets.
Nope.
And you can get them anywhere.
Yeah.
And if you're a felon, you can still get them. If you're in a mental health system, you can still get them.
Yeah.
But then there's also the vehicle attacks.
Yeah, and we've been seeing a little bit of a local rise. They weren't as big in the U.S. They've been big all over the world, but they weren't big here until kind of recently.
Yeah, we had one years ago in New York. A guy rented a U-Haul truck, like a pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
And he just jumped on a busy bicycle path.
Oh, my
And just
gosh.
mowed over a ton of bicyclists.
That's just ridiculous.
No gun involved, $29.95. I mean, I forget the price of those trucks. It says it right on there.
Right.
But, you know, as long as you got like credit card and ID or whatever, you know. So active shooter misses all those other people.
Yep.
Now, one of the worst ones that I'm aware of was in Nice, France.
Yeah.
It was like an outdoor kind of street fair. There was like Christmas shopping thing.
Yeah.
And this dude was in a box truck.
Yep.
And he, if I remember right, killed like 80 people in a matter of seconds.
It was a lot.
He just mowed them through.
He got way up to speed.
And
he was supposed to turn and just went straight.
I do not believe that the Vegas shooter at that country music festival that had that bump stock, he didn't get 80.
I don't remember the
and
number.
the Orlando nightclub shooting, he didn't get 80.
No, he didn't get 80.
So this guy with the truck outdid all those guys with those fancy guns that, you know, everybody's attacking. You know, I get on soapbox, but that's why we do a podcast.
That's why
it's
we do
like
a podcast.
It's like a soapbox.
We kind of have our own safety soapbox.
Well,
hey guys,
let
don't
me,
die at work.
while we're on this subject, let me mess with your brain.
I don't like messing with my brain.
Was a gun used in the 9/11 attacks?
I don't think so. It was like box cutters and
Yeah, box cutters.
It isn't one of the other ones had like some sort of improvised club or something. I mean,
I don't remember that, but
there wasn't.
They had box cutters.
Yeah,
that's like one of those razor blades that breaks and you replace it.
Yeah, they didn't even have like knives. Like,
no, they weren't even like a cool Rambo tactical knife. This is like the straight up most benign. Like every worker in America, you know, there's 100 of box cutters in these workers' pockets all day long. And that's what they killed over 3,000 people with. Think about that.
That's crazy.
3,000. Even that truck in Nice, France, didn't touch what those guys did with box cutters.
That is crazy. It's absolutely.
So they weren't active shooters.
No, they didn't shoot anybody.
Yeah, but they were able to kill 3,000 with box cutters.
That's nuts.
But no one wants to ban box cutters.
Well, no, we need them to
pickup
cut our
trucks,
boxes. And we need them to drive to work.
or U-Haul, you know, straight trucks.
Yep.
But you know, machetes, hatchets. You know, in America, we've had American civilians have their heads cut off at work.
Yeah.
You know. So so that's why we call them active killers.
Active killer. Okay.
Because if we call them active shooter, we're actually missing 25% of them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a good point, though.
All right, so basic course here, just kind of the awareness course on active killer survival tactics. Let's mess with AJ some more.
I'm 0 for 1 so far, so let's see what I got, folks.
All right, 4 main things you could do to survive an active killer attack at work. So gunman, let me set the stage. We'll go with gun. Gunman comes in. He's got, you know, let's go with the one the media loves. He's got an AR-15 assault-style weapon, 30-shot magazines, several of them taped together. He's in there just spraying bullets like crazy. You hear the gunshots. There's 4 things you could do to increase your chances of survival. What are they? And you don't have to tell them in order of effectiveness, but what are they?
I'm going to have to go back to Bear Grylls here, and it's adapt, improvise, evolve. How's that? I'm trying to remember it.
And overcome.
There you go, and overcome. And then secondly, I would say share a Kit Kat with them. Thirdly, obviously,
I'll give you one of them to get you going.
Go Zen.
I'll
run.
I'll give you run.
Run. So I like being a goof first.
Yeah, okay.
Run, obviously. If you're hearing gunfire, don't go investigate the gunfire. Run away from the gunfire.
And that's actually in order: running by actual studying of real life active killer events.
Right.
It's been shown to be the number one thing that you can do to increase your survivability of an active killer. Let me say it this way: best defense for a gunfight is not being
Don't be in a gunfight.
Get out of Dodge.
You don't have to worry about winning a gunfight
if
you're not
you got
in a
an
gunfight.
exit that does not take you into the path of the shooter, you need to get your booty out, and you need to run as fast as you can. You need to run, Forrest, run.
All right, we're gonna play. John.
That was the guy from Go Gadget.
Oh,
that was Dr. Claw.
Get you next time, Gadget.
That'll be probably one of my intros coming up.
Sounds good,
This
Dr.
week
Claw.
on How to Catch Gadget.
So,
Ask Aaron.
all right, Aaron, do gunshots sound like they do in the movies?
Yes.
So when I'm at work and I hear gunfire, it's gonna be like,
Oh, that's a specific question. That's gunfire inside, and no, they don't. But you can't ask me one when you haven't finished yours.
I mean,
Because that's just
movies,
one.
Yeah, in movies you see them pull out guns in all sorts of places, and it always makes the same noise everywhere they are.
But I mentioned there's 4 survival tactics, and
Oh, I
you
know.
only mentioned one.
Well, because I feel like it ties into that.
Okay.
You know, in that running incident, when you're hearing gunfire, is it going to sound like these crazy regular movie noises that I need to run away from? Or
No, and let's get into that, but let's finish mine first.
All right. So hide.
Hide.
Hide
Boom.
is number 2. Conceal yourself.
Yeah.
If you work in an office or a place where maybe it's super long hallways and you're hearing gunfire coming from the hallway, if you run out into the hallway and then run down the super long hallway, you're just a target.
Fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
That's what we call that.
So you don't want to
Kill
be
box.
that. You want to try to go ahead and hide yourself.
Hiding has saved
conceal
many,
yourself.
many people.
Stuff
and
yourself into that grandfather clock.
It didn't have to be anything that was bulletproof either.
No.
Those kids that survived Newtown,
Oh, yeah, okay.
teachers shoved them into cubbies, into drawers, into closets.
Well, that person's moving.
And that teacher sacrificed her life. She was hiding kids up until the guy came in the room and killed her, and then killed every kid that she didn't get a chance to hide yet. But when the authorities came in and started opening drawers, there's kids.
Yeah.
But that shooter, they don't take the time to do
No.
a slow, methodical search.
Right.
If they don't see you, they shoot what they could see, and then they move on. They're a fast-moving thing. These
Right.
things happen in seconds to minutes. They're
So, yeah.
over before they start. So you got run, you got hide, you got 2 more to go, though.
Well, you got fight.
Yep, that's the last one,
That's the last one.
which, I like to call counter ambush.
So I know what you're looking for between hide and fight, and it's usually barricade.
Yep, that's it. All right, ding, ding, ding,
It's
ding,
like
ding.
part of hiding, but at the same time, you don't really have to be hidden. But if you can
It is.
barricade the living
It's
daylights out of
separate,
an
though,
entrance,
because, I could barricade office door to
Right.
where you can't get in,
right?
and I'm not hiding in the office.
Yeah, I know exactly where they are.
And I'm not actually hiding because you know I'm there when
Yep.
and you get that door open 1 inch, but you see 50 tables in front of it.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know there's someone in there. It's
Yeah.
just like, there's someone in there, but you can't see him and get to him. So
Right. So
they
they're
do
not
go
gonna waste a
together,
half
but
an
they
hour
are
trying
very
to get-
separate.
Exactly.
Hiding's different than barricade.
And then fight.
Yep, counter ambush.
You got improvised weapons.
And we need to do just a full podcast on counter ambush
I like it.
because that's my
There
specialty.
you go.
That's when we're going to go all Krav Maga, Jason Bourne, James Bond on people.
I have a new idea for the 2 of us.
Okay.
I'm gonna start pretending to be the Pink Panther, or I guess I'll have to be Detective Clouseau.
Hamburger.
And you will be
Hamburger.
you will be Ponton.
Baboa.
And every now and then, Ponton,
Balboa.
you're going to have to attack me.
Okay, but I can't really, so we'll just have to be like,
Well, did you ever see the old Pink Panther show, like from way back in the day? And he had Kato.
Okay.
And he was like Kato, because Kato would always like try to sharpen his deductive skills by
Okay.
hiding
Nice.
and then springing out and getting him.
okay.
And so like that's what he did all the time. So if you're
Yeah.
Mr. Counter Ambush, like you're gonna have to be like in the walls and in the ceiling and under
Yeah.
the paint.
For sure.
And then I'll just turn corners and you're just gonna scare the daylights out of me constantly.
Some people have survived these by taking out the attacker.
Right? They got active killer, active shooter showing up, doing their walkthroughs. These guys got nowhere to run, nowhere to hide,
nowhere to
they got
barricade.
zero things to barricade a door, so they know that guys, when they get there, they're coming in the door.
They grab an improvised weapon and they get in a strategic location, and when they see their opportunity, they put in work and they take the dude out. And
should we cover some of everybody's favorite improvised weapons, or you want to save that for another podcast?
Yeah, we'll do a whole one on that. This is just the overview today, but so let's go to yours now on the gunshot sounds.
Oh yeah, man.
Because
this was trippy when I first learned about it.
I experienced it.
Yeah, I always thought gunshots, like, whatever. Gunshots sound like gunshots. I've been to a shooting range a ton of times.
I've been, I developed a lot of this curriculum from life experiences. I didn't buy a boilerplate. There's all these national programs for active kill instructors. You can go and they give you curriculum and you just do that. But I've been doing it since before those curriculums were even invented. So I had to invent my own stuff.
Yeah.
And I've since researched some of the other people's stuff. Like even the NFPA's got an active killer course out now. I think it's 3000.
National Fire Protection Association.
Yeah, well, they're all life safety code and all that.
I mean,
I think
I
it's
guess.
3000. I think it's NFPA 3000. They have an active killer survival course.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'll
I'll take it one day, see what they got. Hopefully, I'll learn something.
yeah, I mean, heck yeah.
But no, I had this epiphany in real life. I was doing private investigation. I had my little office.
You were a PI.
I was a PI
out of the streets.
And I was in a building that had multiple companies in it.
Okay.
And there was not my company. There was another company next to me that had a negligent discharge, an accidental discharge, an AD.
Yeah.
And so I'm in my office doing emails. More like tat. But I'm in my office doing emails.
Okay.
And then I hear a noise.
Okay. What that noise sound like?
Well, to me, and this is the thing that everybody's got to know about indoor gunshots, not indoor ranges, but office building gunshots.
Right. A workplace gunshot.
The sound waves as they mingle with carpet and drywall and hallways and drop ceilings gets very distorted.
Okay.
So it's not a bang, bang, bang.
So what would you hear?
So in my instance, it was a pop.
Like a balloon pop? Like when you say pop
No,
to me, like I heard
no,
a pop. I
what-
think like
well,
pop.
this is what I need people to know, is the sound's weird. So what our brain does when it hears something unknown, it's called a schema. Like we have a box. We got to understand of it and make sense of it. So we automatically go to our experience and put it in the category that we have experience.
Makes sense.
So for me, for the years I spent doing force on force drills and firearms training with simunition guns and paintball guns, what it sounded like to me was a paintball gun dry firing.
That little bit of it's almost like a thump. Like a little, it's like
it's like when your paintball gun has flatulence.
Makes it little.
Well, that's when it runs out of air.
The little pop noise.
Yeah, because it's got a thoof sound when
Yeah.
it's shooting balls out, but when it's empty, it's pop, pop, pop.
Right.
So I heard a pop, and I go, I remember doing like one of those puppy dog things where you like turn your head and go, huh?
All of a sudden you're like, what?
But in my brain, I go, who's dry firing a paintball gun in the office next door to me?
Weird. How far away was the gunshot from where you were?
Probably
located?
20 feet.
Oh, that's really close.
Yeah.
20 feet is not far.
Yeah, but there's walls and doors.
But it didn't sound like a gun. It didn't sound like bang.
No,
like a
it
gunshot.
was a pop. I heard it. It stopped me in my tracks, but I never thought gun.
So the further away you get from that, I mean, the more weirdly distorted it's going to be.
And quieter.
It's going to start turning into just like little taps.
So I just kept emailing. I go,
Well,
who's dry firing a paintball gun in the office? But then my mind goes to what I know. So I go, oh, someone must have got one and is showing somebody or something. I don't know. So I just kept emailing.
Right. Your brain didn't go.
Which is funny is I got the
Done.
case. They actually hired me to investigate that. AD.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I did. And what happened was, this is going into firearm safety, but this guy got a new gun, carry gun, and he wanted to show it to this person. He had a full magazine, but one wasn't racked in the chamber.
Okay.
So he hands the gun with ammo in it, which you just shouldn't do. You should clear your gun and hand it.
Right.
It's gun safety. So he hands it to this lady, and he says, it's loaded, but it's not cocked. It's the magazine's got bullets in it, but it's not cocked. And that kind of went in one ear, out the other with this lady. She when she gets a new gun, she always racks the slide to see if she's strong enough to rack it.
Sure. Can she handle it?
So she racks the slide and puts one in the chamber, and she aims it, and she pulls the trigger.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it was a Smith & Wesson Bodyguard, it's a 380, and that went through a super solid oak door, a old school, real wood,
Dang.
super solid door, through a metal filing cabinet into the metal of the drawer of the file cabinet and got stopped by the files themselves.
Oh,
I
wow.
found the bullet in the filing cabinet.
Was it FMJ? So it must have been.
Yeah. And but I learned a lot that day.
Wow.
I learned that I don't know what indoor gunshots sound like.
Yeah.
Although I've heard thousands on ranges, indoor and outdoor. I mean, by that time I was still a pistol, shotgun, rifle, concealed weapons permit instructor.
Right.
I've shot myself and taught hundreds of courses with shooting. So like I thought I knew what a gunshot sounded like.
So to clarify to the audience, you haven't shot yourself. You have shot as yourself.
Yes, I have shot and have had students shoot thousands of rounds.
Because real quick, you just said, I shot myself.
Myself, I have shot many times.
So just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, but it was a big eye-opener for me.
Dang, man.
And
so,
if you study like the Virginia Tech shooting,
yeah,
people heard the gunshots and they had the same reactions. They put it in their mind. It told them it was something that sound made sense to them from previous experience. This one girl, and she's online. You could look it up. You could study all this stuff. She said, "Yeah, I thought it was weird. Somebody was chopping wood at school."
Oh, that makes total sense, especially if you've been around people who chop wood, man. Like some of those actually, and some of those driving weird axes, but they make a huge, it's like a really crazy thunk. I mean, it's a loud chop noise.
It's not a gunshot though, but it is.
I could see how your brain could turn it through a little bit of
especially through hallways and with the distortion.
into that. I mean, yeah, like I could clearly.
If
see
she
that
was right next
association.
to the guy, even if she couldn't see him, but if she was outdoors and heard it, she wouldn't have thought that. She would have thought gun because it would have sounded like a gun. But because she was in a building,
yeah,
it was distorted, and that's how her brain went. Most people say firecrackers.
I could see that.
They say stuff like, "I thought it was weird that someone was letting off firecrackers."
Yeah, I could see
mean,
that.
that makes sense, right?
It does.
But they still didn't think gunshot though.
I don't know. Me, I'm automatic, like weirdly paranoid. I still, one of my favorite things is cars. We've never mentioned on here that I'm into cars, right? But there have been plenty of times I've been at car meets, car shows, and I'll still hear, backfires, loud exhaust, a really, really good fireball pop out or a turbo spool down or just something, that makes a lot of pop noises. And I still get on edge. I'm like, oh, that's gunfire. Nope, that's just that little turbo over there.
Well, that's how we all need to be right now.
I still do it.
That's how we all need to be.
That's fair.
So that's a good point to make up that I want the listening on to know. Don't assume I don't need a plan or I'll know if there's an active killer in my workplace. You may not.
Yeah,
if it's on a different
not.
floor, if it's in a different part of the building, a lot of times, I don't know. If the audience can hear this, I'll try to. It could sound like this.
Just little taps and thumps away.
Like a lot of people think, what's maintenance doing?
Mm-hmm.
If it's on a different floor, a different wing. But what I try to keep people into is the repetition, the pattern. When someone hammers, it's like, bam,
right,
bam, bam.
Yep.
If I'm doing demo, if I'm hitting a wall, like I can't hit a wall 30 times in a row.
Well.
Like swinging a sledgehammer, like maybe AJ can, but even if I could, my pattern would be
it's gonna be slow.
It would be a rhythm,
right?
Because I got to swing, boom, it hits. I got to draw it back into grip.
Yep.
Take a deep breath, draw it up, do my swing, boom. That's gonna be like a rhythm.
Yeah, and you can cue into that.
Yeah, but an active killer, a shooting rhythm is very sporadic. So it'd be like, tack, tack. Tat, 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 tat. Walk around, see somebody else. Tat, tat. Walk around, see 5 people. Tat, 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 tat. Walk around, see 2 people. Tat, 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 tat. Walk around, see a person. Tat, tat, tat.
It's going to be intermittent, sporadic.
Yeah, and nobody
bursts.
hammers like that unless you're a weirdo.
Right.
You got to go back to hammer school.
Go back to hammer school.
So
I'm taking you to hammer school.
You know, that's just one thing I bring up in my class.
That's going to be a new intro for me.
Yeah.
Welcome to hammer school.
Hammer school.
I'm going to teach you how to hammer.
In a good rhythm and pattern so people know you're not an active killer in another part of the building.
We're going to practice today with two-handed hammers. 2 hammers at the same time.
But I think that's just a really small thing that I want the listening audience to know. Don't expect you're going to know what it sounds like and be alert to these weird patterns and err on the side of caution and get out of Dodge.
And nobody's going to fault you. Like if you start hearing weird noises and you go, whoa, what is that?
I'm out of here.
And if you start looking, asking people, what is that weird noise? It sounds like it's getting closer. Oh, maintenance is installing something and they'll be up on this floor soon.
Now they'll laugh at you if
Right.
you got up and ran out of there and you called 20 minutes later from 5 miles away and go, are you guys still alive?
Are you still alive?
And they're like, yeah, it was maintenance. They're going to laugh at you, but oh well, because what if it wasn't?
I mean, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, be reasonable.
So, got a lot of podcasts coming up on this. There's a lot of things we need to talk about. How to deal with the first aid at the exact aftermath of the shooting.
Yeah.
The survivors that are alive, you got 20 people bleeding out.
Yep.
Paramedics are 5 minutes away. People are going to bleed out and die before they get there.
It's going to be a hot minute.
What can us employees do who survived?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about wound packing, tourniqueting, Little Tac Med. I think all these places that have large amounts of people with low security, for sure, need to have tourniquet supplies and a little bit of training. So we should talk about that because several people have bled out and died before the paramedics got there.
Well, yeah.
And then, I want to get into, what could a manager do during one to step up and lower the body count, save lives? What kind of policies do we need? What kind of drills should we do?
Ooh.
Drills are important.
We know nobody's even doing their fire drills. Maybe if we can just get them onto like some regular drills, we can start doing some active killer survival drills.
Yeah, and then just a whole episode on run, a whole episode on hide, barricade, counter ambush, how to make your business a hard target so it's not even chosen, like prevention. All the statistics that have been drawn up by the various organizations on how to identify an active killer.
Mm-hmm.
I think prevention's a big deal.
Yeah, I think identification's a huge deal.
How to do security and vulnerability assessments to see what your weak areas are. And what I really, really, really think is important, something I try to do with all my clients, is get each and every individual to make an area-specific plan.
Yep.
Like I could say, AJ, you need to run, you need to hide, or barricade, or fight.
Well, I'm only
in
left
that order.
I'm only left with the last 3 because we all know I'm not running.
So
cardio is not in my blood.
Yeah, but that just doesn't tell you how or where to run, how or where to hide.
Right.
It's not site specific.
We can cover that.
So definitely covering how to make an area specific plan.
Yeah.
And then going in all the cool gear and devices that barricade doors and improvised weapons and
covering some of the stuff that's just nonsense.
Like weapons that you could carry and not get fired when your job doesn't let you carry other weapons.
Like my katana.
You carry a katana at work?
Well, no, but I'm pretty sure if I started, they'd be like,
It's not in the policy.
I mean, there isn't a written policy about carrying a katana.
It wasn't covered in orientation. I think you could do it till you get a talking to
we're
it.
Iowa. We got permission to open carry.
It'd probably work for like 1 day, 1 hour. Come in with a sword on your back, and then it'll be a new policy. AJ, we have a new policy where you cannot wear a sword at work.
Right.
So anyway, guys, I hope you tune in. We're not going to do all these episodes consecutively. We're going to keep mixing in a lot of our other OSHA topics, but we're definitely going to cover this since they are back, and it's something that we need to know. It is a real possibility, and we want no one to die at work because we are the evil safety dudes, and we're about all things OSHA and safety and security, and this is a very prominent deal at work,
yeah.
and so we're going to spend some time covering this one. So I hope you guys got something out of today, and we will see you in the future and get you some much more greater detail. And until next time, everybody, stay safe. Any last words, AJ?
I'll get you next time, guys.